In case you missed our last episode of Life with the Polites MRL, Marriage, Relationships, and Love, here's what you missed. A man's responsibility. A man's responsibility comes before his desires. I think that's very crucial in the time that we live in today because life has constantly changed dramatically. And men has continued to, not all men, let me just give a disclaimer, but some men has moved away from that target. The Bible says the first thing that God gave man wasn't ambition, wasn't aspiration, nor desires. The Bible says the first thing that God gave man was responsibility. The Bible says that God took the man, put him in the garden to work it and take care of it. The King James Version says that he is to dress it and keep it. I think these are very, very profound things that today that a lot of men don't gravitate to. They don't understand these principles that God has placed in line. And that's the disconnect in regards of their family and their children. A man's success is measured by what his wife and his children say about him. I'm going to say it again. A man's success is measured by what his wife and his children say about him. Money and aspirations means nothing if he lets his wife and his children fail and suffer. I want you to think about that. Money and accomplishments means nothing if he allows his wife and his children to suffer and fail. And I say again, not all men fall in this category. But we do have some, and there are many, that don't recognize or understand this methodology. Many men fail to understand. Many men fail to recognize that the condition, and this is very important, they fail to understand and they fail to recognize that the condition of their children, the condition of their wives, reflects to the world the kind of man that they are. That's the point that I'm driving to. A lot of men miss that point, that they don't recognize nor do they understand that the condition of their children, the condition of their wives reflect to the world the kind of man that they are. And Lady P, I believe that's huge in today, where we live in a world where it's a lot of me first. That is so, so important because I believe that once a man puts himself in a position, as a father and as a husband, the gloves don't come off, they come on. And that's the misconception. The gloves don't come off, they come on. There's truly an enormous amount of work that's now demanded when a man puts himself in that position. And I use that term as a man puts himself in a position because that is what he has accepted moving forward. He is accepted when two become one and they birth this child into life. He's accepted that. And the same goes when a man marries a woman. He's accepted that. He's accepted that knowing that that role will have to be played by him and he will have to prioritize the things that strengthen the relationship. It's enormously critical today on how that thought of mine doesn't carry over. And we have a lot of freelancing in relationships today in regards to that prioritization is in effect. I use the word freelancing, Lady P, because a lot of men freelance. They come into a relationship, they've gotten close to a young lady and they've become fathers, and in some cases they've tried marriage, because that's what freelancers is. You are trying something. They've tried marriage with an antidote not to togetherness or devotion or commitment, that we'll see how long I can take this. I'll see how long I can endure in this. and then I move on to the next best thing, or this didn't turn out to be what I expected. Because in every degree comes challenges. In every degree becomes challenges. I believe that the challenge for some men, when we talk about this particular area, I believe that for some men, they weigh their importance. And that's very crucial. They weigh their importance on wanting their dreams, their aspirations, or their wants over their responsibility of their children and their household. And again, that falls right into this morning's topic of what we're talking about. A man's responsibility should always come before his dreams. You know, this is a moving point to where a lot of men don't recognize or understand the prioritization that's needed when they've placed themselves in this position. That there is an enormous responsibility. And we're going to tackle both. The single man who becomes a father and the one who becomes a husband. But this is very real for what we're getting ready to say, is that that father doesn't always become that husband in a relationship. That father doesn't always become that husband. So there's a fork in the road that sometimes happen. And there lies the difference in regards of growth and maturity. That goes a fork in the road where we have responsibility, accountability, and the maturity of knowing that my child needs me. I didn't say my child needs my money. My child needs me for love, direction, for guidance. These are the type things that I believe money don't buy. And when that fork in the road comes about, that's the challenge that comes about in the relationship and in the man at times on whether or not this path is one that he decides to follow. Because deciding to go down this path, you will be challenged. You will be challenged and you will be confronted with prioritization. It won't be you, it'll be your child, it'll be your household, it'll be your wife if you're then led into that marriage. It's very important that we understand that how the shift goes along, the more the man stays in the position. And as long as he's birthed out a child, his position of being that child's father never changes. His responsibility only grows, intensifies as his child grows and matures. And that's where another challenge comes to whether or not men truly want to toughen up and do the things that need to be done, or they choose another path of what they want to do instead of what they have to do. And a lot of times when you pick what you want to do, somebody suffers.
Mr. P, you know, we did this teaching many years ago from Genesis 1 in reference to dressing it and keeping it. And I think one of and with the title being responsibilities before, I forgot how you said it, but I'm going to say it my way. Responsibility before dreams, responsibility before a person's commitments, or whatever how you said it. When you go back to that Genesis 1, and as you already said, the first thing God gave man was responsibility, you know, and he shows that when he says, dress it and keep it, and you said a different way from a different translation of a Bible verse. However, you know, we need to understand, and I'm gonna focus more on the men right now than the woman, because it was the man that was first, and it was the man that God said this to. So men have to come to the point of understanding that if you are not dressing and keeping, then you're not a man.
Amen.
Period. You have a lot of men walking around talking about, I'm grown, I'm an adult, I'm this. But if you're not being responsible, meaning if you're not dressing and keeping what you're supposed to dress and keep, then you're not a man. That's the first thing God told man, to dress. He gave him responsibility and told him to dress and keep it, to take care of it.
I agree.
You know, to do whatever it is you have to. That's even before the female comes in.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, my word to men today who are joining us today, check out your stuff, because you're busy. You're busy dressing yourself. You're busy, you're busy looking good. But as I was sharing with my husband some time ago, you're busy dressing yourself and you looking good, and you walking around looking like a check, but your children looking like a food stamp. That's not being, you being responsible to yourself is not being a man. When you do things in the divine order, as we taught them, we don't have time to go through that teaching. If y'all want to know, want to hear about that teaching, you can, email us on TOLM, somehow get to us, whether through Facebook or whatever, and we'll give you that we'll search for that teaching, because we taught that many years ago. But the bottom line is that God the first thing He gave man was responsibility. So if you are still a man and you still, you're still living in your mama's house, or you still, you still living in other people's homes, and you still, as you said, freelancing, another word for that is squatting. You're just a squatter. Because you have not first, being that you were the first creator, you have not first learn how to be responsible with what it is that you should be doing as a man. So if you're walking around with no responsibilities, guess what? You're not even a man yet.
Amen.
You may be grown, you may be 20, you may be 30, you may be 40,
Amen.
But if you're walking around with no responsibilities, everybody else is doing the things that you should be doing first, you're not a man.
Amen.
So you can't stand up and say anything to your sister, to your mama, to your girlfriend, to any other female who is doing what you should be doing. You are freelancing and you are squatting. Amen. Period. Amen. So take the man title off, because what you are doing is being a boy still. Amen. You still want to be taken care of.
Amen.
You still want to be taken care
Amen.
of, and yet you're looking for a help. You can't get a help until you're responsible. You have to be responsible first. And so these girls and these women who are chasing after men and looking after men who are not responsible, then you're getting ready to take on a freelancer and a squatter in your life. And in the end, what's going to happen is that you're going to get a Judas. I'm going to leave that alone until you go a little further. Because I'm going to hold that thought. Because, men, you have men that look, women are so attracted to how a man is dressing and looking good. But look at where he had being responsible. Is he responsible in areas where he should be responsible? Or is he walking around talking about, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do... Everything is about himself. But he already have responsibilities and he's not taking care of them. Well, then he's not a man. Run. Run. Because if he's not responsible with his responsibility, what makes you think he's going to be responsible with the responsibility that you're going to have as you're coming together in a relationship? Run.
Lady P, I'm gonna give this
sorry,
back.
I gotta say it that way.
I'm gonna give this back to you, but to follow on what you just said in the series of why they fail themselves as being a man is because when they come to the light of the demands of the responsibility that surrounds the need and what's required, that's what happens.
Exactly. And what happens along with all of the above that we have already said is that, a man who is not responsible, they can't keep promises.
Bingo.
They can't keep promises.
Bingo.
Oh, baby, I'll do this. Promises, whether to whoever they're in relationship with or their children, they cannot keep promises because they are not responsible. They're not responsible. And this is male or female, but I know you're focusing on the male right now. This is male or female. But a person who is not responsible cannot keep promises. They will not keep promises. because their first priority is chasing after whatever they're chasing after and leaving all the responsibilities on everybody else.
Mainly the mother.
Or the significant other.
Mm-hmm.
Or the significant other. And then when the mother or the significant other, or even sometimes even sisters are doing the things that a man's supposed to be doing, holding them down. Yo, baby, you supposed to hold me down. Hold what down? A boy? A boy or a child in a grown man's body who refuse to be responsible or think they're responsible, but responsible means you have your own.
Amen.
You have your own. God gave Adam something of his own. God didn't put Adam in a woman's home or a woman's garden. God gave Adam his own and said, dress it. So men, if you don't have your own, and even women, if you don't have your own, you're not being responsible. But you're running around trying to be responsible for somebody else's stuff who own their own stuff. But you want their stuff. That's a Judas. That's a freelance, as you say. That's a squatter. Eventually that's a Judas. I'm gonna give it back to you.
I have to continue down the path you're going because you're going right where I wanted to go. Because I wrote this down as you were speaking. Most men walk off. Listen to this term. Most men walk off from their relationship when a relationship now tends to have more conflict and they have less freedom.
Or because it has more responsibility.
That's right.
More responsibility is being asked of them.
That's right. That's right.
And so just like they be trying to pimp God, they be trying, when they see they can no longer pimp the person that they're with or the person that's always been there, they're going to walk away because they can't fulfill the responsibility. They don't want to fulfill the responsibility because they have other agendas. They have other priorities. Their responsibility is themselves.
Themselves and what we spoke of earlier. When they get to this point in the relationship where the demands comes front and center of them being responsible for their children. And like I said, a lot of times there's more conflict and less freedom because what they've put themselves in position with is now real. Being a father is real because you're accountable. You're responsible. It's not about you. It's about your child. And that's where the conflict comes with the lesser. Because you as the man, you fall in that category as the lesser. And then what comes in, the more friction and the more conflict, then we go back to what we said earlier. A lot of men start weighing the importance of their dreams. Challenged against being a father to their children.
Or just their responsibility, whatever that responsibility is. They do. They would use the excuse, like you said, I'm focusing on this. I'm focusing on that. But you have, from the time that we are birthed and we go through those stages that we spoke of, like I said, in our lesson session that we gave on this many years ago. There are stages in people's lives. And when you try to skip those stages in life, what you're really doing is trying to skip the responsibility that comes along with those stages. So responsibilities has always been first before a dream. We don't find out as individuals who we are or what we want in life until we get to a certain age. Amen. But until we get to that age, you still have responsibilities all your life. You follow what I'm saying? As a child, you was responsible to do this. As an adolescent, you was responsible to do this. As someone who's going to school, there was responsibility. Before you can even trace your dreams, there are responsibilities. Responsibilities is what teaches you and show you who you are, what you are, and what God is trying to get you to do. So when we run away from the obvious, responsibilities in our life and say, oh, well, I'm putting that responsibility over there because I'm chasing that this, or this is my dream, or this is what I want, and you leaving everything behind that you're responsible for, it's ridiculous.
Most men run when they're confronted with that type of responsibility because it outweighs what they want.
In their eyes, yes. In their eyes, yeah. But how can you say your dreams outweigh you being a father because you have a child?
Amen.
How can you outweigh your dreams as a husband when you took on the responsibility of a wife? How could you, as we take on these different things in our life, the responsibility is always first. You know what? I think I'm going to nail it right here. The Spirit just gave this to me. Even as people who take on ministry, husband and wives, and you have family, your first priority is your family.
Amen.
That's your first ministry.
That's right.
Now, sometimes we get caught up in it because we try so hard
Amen.
to get these stiff-necked people, to get on board. But once they become adults, that's in God's hands.
Amen.
But until then, your responsibility is first to those children.
Amen.
So when you have people that are constantly, they're feeding the church first before they feed their child. They're clothe the church first before they put some shoes in the child. And I'm just trying to give these examples. It may be a little exaggerated, but who knows? Some people may be doing that. You understand what I'm saying? Or for instance, this is an old saying, or a wife that don't cook for her husband, she'll go and cook for her pastor.
That's not an old saying. That still happens today.
A husband who would go out there and labor and do everything for a church, but he don't spend no time with his family, with his wife, with his children. He's running from the responsibility. You being all seen over here because it's your dream. This is what your calling, your whatever. But you're not responsible for where your first responsibility should be.
Amen. Amen.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we run from it. Men run from it, and they use these dreams and these other excuses to why they're not responsible.
Lady P, there's how can I say this? They're out. And I've heard this a lot over the years. A man's out toward everything that you just said is that they've discovered that parenting is hard. Hold it for a minute. Hold it for a minute. Hold it for a minute. But what they fail to recognize is that women been dealing with single parenting all their lives. So how come the revelation is harder for you as a man?
I'm gonna let you answer that.
I mean,
you're the man. I can't answer that. I don't know.
I've heard that over the years as being an out for a lot of men in regards of parenting. That it's too hard, it's too difficult. But you're willing on walking away from your responsibility and your accountability because you are not willing on trying. The demand that you feel is too much, too heavy for you to carry, you feel you're not ready or you're not willing on doing this. But this is the crazy part about what I just said. 2, 3, 4 years from they're out, they're in another relationship doing the same thing they walked away from. So my point of what I'm driving to is that for some men, their prioritization isn't intact when they've put themselves in this position. Their prioritization wasn't intact when they put themselves in that position of being a father. Oh, wow, it's something that happened. That doesn't just happen. That takes effort. That takes effort.
That was an act.
Exactly.
Whether it was an act of love or act of lust, it was an act. You participated in something. It didn't happen by itself.
But I mean, I've heard that talk for years. But this is the part that a lot of men leave off is that your responsibility, nevertheless, is your responsibility. Your responsibility comes first. It comes first before your dreams, your desires, your aspirations, or what you want. Once you've placed yourself in that position and the birth of that child comes about, that comes first. Everything that you wanted, you needed, you desired, your aspirations, your plans, that's an afterthought. Not that it won't or ever come to pass. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is your responsibility comes first. And the demands of one's responsibility, I believe, plays an enormous role while a lot of men walk off. While a lot of men decide that I'm going to do just, listen to this, my part. What's my part? You had a child with someone together. What you mean your part?
That sounds like just enough. I'm going to do just enough.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but when I heard you say that, I heard at the same time, just enough. Go ahead.
I mean, it's ironic. Mm-hmm. It's ironic that
just enough
that men choose this path over their children, because they do. A lot of men choose to go that path, but this is what I'm driving to. That when you make the decision to have a child, when two people come together and they're in this relationship and this comes forth, you're also making the decision to take the responsibility of that child. You don't abandon, you don't leave your obligation as a father for other plans. That's it in a nutshell. You don't abandon your obligation as a father because you have other plans. And that comes about when the demand comes to light of really what it involves on being a full-time, not just enough or do my part father. A full-time father is day-to-day, every day in that child's life.
You know, and we know that sometimes when people are in relationships and, you know, careers and whatever, you know, may prevent, you know, one of the parents from being there all the time. I'm just piggybacking off that last statement you said. So we understand that. But when it's a constant runaway, you know, it's okay. There's a season for everything. So during that season, it's understandable. But then there may be another season that you're not there, and another season that you're not there. You know, as you was talking, the root. I believe the Spirit just gave me the root to why, you know, and it's not right. It is the root, but it doesn't mean that it's correct or is right. Okay, but one of the reasons why I think male often, because even females, you know, neglect their responsibilities as a parent, or neglect their responsibilities as wives, or whatever it may be. And the root, what I got is when a person is walking away or denying their responsibility, most of the time, or some of the time, okay, is connected to not being happy.
Amen.
That's what this job to me, not being happy. But you know what? What right do you, once you have engaged in an act, whereas you have taken on certain things in your life, it's not about just your happiness anymore. Why do sometimes people feel that their happiness alone is more important than their being responsible to whatever their responsibility is? Because that person that you're supposed to be responsible have a right to be happy too. So if your happiness is walking away and it's causing you not to put clothes on that child's back, then you think that child is happy?
No. There's a lack and there's need.
If your happiness, you know, we understand sometimes there's reasons why people, you know, walk away. You understand what I'm saying? But, you know, happiness was never mentioned in the word. It was joy.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
It's joy, not happiness. But I can understand at some extent to why when a person feels like, okay, well, my happiness is doing this and not this. Well, it's too late once you have engaged in the act where you got to be responsible. And sometimes we make the mistakes and when we come back and we try to correct those things and that's all fine and dandy. But the bottom line is that we should never, at any point in our life, which is what your topic is, we should never feel that that we have a right to choose our dream or our ambitions or our careers as the highest priority over being responsible. Because where you should be responsible, that's something you did.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you created.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to figure out how to work all of that out. Mm-hmm. But you are responsible for what you are responsible for. It's just crazy how, when people are chasing after their dreams, at some point they got to stop and realize that they also may be killing someone's legacy. Because all you did was come in and squat and take and freelance. And then when you realize that the other individual is no longer going to accept you not being responsible, some people turn around and, not being happy just becomes, what's another word for it? I'm trying to be calm with the word I'm getting ready to use. Becomes, I'm going to stay with Judas. You begin to take on acts of being a Judas within that relationship. And a lot of us are sleeping with this Judas. A lot of us are married to this Judas. A lot of us are hanging around this Judas. Because when people are forced to be responsible, they're either going to be responsible or they're going to attack the person that is requiring them to be responsible. So instead of you making them look like they're not responsible, they're going to try to destroy you and your legacy of how you've been responsible. And a lot of us hang around those type of people.
It also brings to the point that it tests your weaknesses and your strengths. Because that's where you find out whether or not you're really responsible or capable, or you're willing to be all in being a part of that child's life. Because you said earlier something about timing, and I wrote down that for a lot of men, if the compromise isn't in their favor, then they don't want to have nothing to do with it. The compromise always have to be where they get the most of. Not just enough, like I said earlier, or walking off. They want the compromise to be to where they're limited on what they can do or what they want to do, but still want to have the title of a father, but not adding the strength and the guidance and the responsibility that's needed.
Where there's responsibility, there should be no word as compromise. Responsibility is responsibility.
That's right.
Responsibility is responsibility. Because, for instance, when we go back again to Genesis 1, God first put the responsibility to dress and to keep on that man. So even if you get a woman in your life and she doesn't, you already been taught first how to be responsible. You, man, have already been taught first how to be responsible. So when it comes to the man, compromise has nothing to do with responsibility. Period.
But that's what they do. If
God has given you, man, a home, you have You can't expect that when that woman, it's good if she does, but when you get a helpmate, when she comes in, whether she helps you or not, it is your responsibility to keep that place. Because she already taught you first how to keep and be responsible with what he has given you. You are always the first one that God teaches to be responsible. You. We as females have always been raised and born to help. Think about it, sisters. When we were born and we were in our families, what did we always? We was raised to help. Help your mother wash them dishes. Help your mother clean that house. We were there to help. As your siblings and everybody was growing up, it was, if you really look at it, old timers and coming up to our time, if you're still seeing it, if there was a male in the house, the male was the first one taught to go out there and get a job. And the lady, you help your mama. You help your mama. So it's always to the man first to do the responsibility.
I mentioned the compromise simply because when the compromise isn't in their behavior, that gives them a mean to walk off and neglect their responsibility.
And I agree.
And that's really sad.
And I agree. But again, a man who is a man don't need to compromise or anywhere where doesn't need. That's okay. So for what you're saying, so I'm just giving an example. So for instance, okay, when you and I met, you owned your home first. Okay, so when I came in and became your wife, if you then now God had already taught you first. He gave you this. You already had learned responsibility. So now when I came in, if we were to elaborate on what you just said, and you begin to say, well, honey, I need you to help me, pay this mortgage or whatever. And I can't, or I refuse, or whatever situation be that I cannot assist you in what you want me to compromise with, you put on the table, and you walk away, then you never learned about responsibility.
I agree.
Because that's what responsibility, that's what God teaches man first, responsibility. When no one else, you still are responsible.
I agree.
When God gives a man, he teaches you first to be responsible. You first dress it and keep it. You follow what I'm saying? Amen. You can't get mad and pissed off and then end that relationship because I don't want to compromise with you on that. That's your responsibility.
I agree.
Now, if I choose to do that, woman, and we do that, that's fine and dandy. But if a man's going to walk away because you don't give into a compromise of lessening his responsibility, bingo. That's the problem. A lot of men start out with being responsible. And then they get a woman, a female in their life who come in as a helpmate, and they assume that she's then there to come and take over or take on or make it easier from him being a man. And when we do that sometimes as women, you see, that's why women have to know they men. Good example, hon. A lot of things that you have accomplished or done in your life, I've always, when there's things that we want to do, goals in our life, I've always said, no, you're doing it first.
Amen.
You're doing it first. Because you see, it's not my job to make it easier for you as a man.
Amen.
It's for my job to help you manage what God is giving you. It's not my job to make it easier for a man. And I know some men who's here and say, oh, no, she did. No. What God has given you, when he brings a helpmate, is for us to help you manage what God has given you. And sometimes even help you to see or to accomplish what it is that God is trying to get to you. And that's sometimes when men's head can be a little hard because, sometimes they think that, man, they ain't got to listen to us. And then they pay the price somewhere down the road, and so do we as we're going through it. But a woman's job, man, I need you to hear me clearly. If we was to do a survey on this, a real woman, a woman who knows her virtue, a woman who knows her purpose in life, a woman who knows her favor.
Amen.
Her favor.
Amen.
Okay, she knows that she is not there to compromise, to make it easier for you.
Amen.
We're there to help you manage.
Amen.
Because if I keep making it easier for you, I just turned you back into a boy and I became your mama and not your wife.
And that's real for today. Because
there's a lot of men, and that's why when I hear girls call their men papi, y'all better stop calling your men papi. Honey, it may be good and feel good, but stop giving him that title. He's not your papi, daddy. No, he ain't none of that. When you're in a relationship, he is your man. Call him by his name, honey. Call him. Don't give him a title and he don't. And then you wonder why you get treated a certain way. And then somewhere down the road you realize, well, shoot, you just been whipped, but he ain't responsible because you saying papi, but yet you making it easier for him, and you doing what a mother would do for a child is take on every responsibility, made it easier for this so-called man, and allowed him to go and chase his dreams. Because you allowed him to become less responsible. You took it on. And so now he's taking and he's running on with his dreams. It's supposed to be the reverse. It's supposed to be the reverse. Now that's what's going to come to my mind in a few, I hope, before we go off. But it's supposed to be the reverse. Okay? So watch all that. Oh, papi. Lust will get you in trouble with the quickness if you don't have a responsible man. A man who's willing to go the extra yard. A man who is willing to be a man and not a boy in a man's body. But yet he want to tell you and everybody else how to be a man. Men to a man. Before a man try to tell you how to be a man, ask him about himself. Well, brother, what you doing?
That's a fact.
What's going on? How you doing? What you doing? And y'all will be shocked. I am quite sure if friends, so-called friends, would have real conversation, you'll find out who's really being a man and responsible and who is just dressing themselves up, looking like a check. And everybody else around them is suffering, looking like a food stamp. Now, I'm going to keep that real. My husband don't never have me looking like a food stamp. And my husband be sharp. Every time, every day. But he don't have me looking like a food stamp. I'm walking around with my head not done. I'm walking around with some dirty clothes. No. Because we his crown. When you look at a woman,
Amen.
It reflects who that man is.
Amen.
It reflects who that man is.
Amen.
So yeah, you're gonna have some. There's gonna be some compromises and some things that you're dealing with, some issues or whatever, baby. Compromising. Who gonna do the dishes today, or who gonna, yeah, I can understand that. But compromising where his responsibility is, oh no.
It is what
you
it
make
is.
it easy, and then Jesus is Lord is I gotta get this back to you, and then you wonder why he leaves you, woman, and go to somebody else.
That's right. Just like I said.
Because you have made it easy for him. Just because you love a man don't mean you got to make it easy for him. And vice versa. Love is tough. Love is hard. Love is togetherness. Love is not making responsibilities easy. Other things it can be made easy for each other, but responsibilities, oh no, I dare not. Because then I'm weakening my man. Right. And then you wonder why women, when you walk into a place together with a man, with my husband, whenever he walks into, if I'm somewhere and he walks into a room, and people have noticed this, it's just, I smile because that's my man.
Amen.
He's a man. He's responsible. But come on, women, y'all know when y'all got a man who ain't responsible and you somewhere and he walk into the room, in your mind you're saying that I'm going to say it. That nigga get on my nerves. And you try to hold that frown in. But some of us have made it too easy for them. In the name of love. No, if he's chasing dreams, he could be responsible at the same time that he's chasing dreams. And the reason why they walk off is because they don't want their dreams to linger too. They don't want the dreams to wait. They don't want the dreams to be, dragged. You know what I'm saying? They want their dream now. They don't want the dream to be fulfilled 10 years from now by being responsible. Because by being responsible, some dreams may not be fulfilled right then and there when they want it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, when they wanted you, they chased after you right then and there.
Or better yet, they walk off because the dreams that they now want to pursue don't include you.
But then there was never a relationship.
Exactly.
There was never a relationship.
The dreams and the pursuit, when the demand comes so hard and they understand that, hey, they got to be responsible for their child, then there's just enough and they walk off. The compromise doesn't fall in their behalf. So that's an excuse for them to walk off, and they pursue the dreams, the aspirations, and the desires, because now you're not the other significant other. More or less, the mother is not included in those dreams.
And that's why at every stage in people's lives, when you take on responsibilities, you have to be honest with yourself to say that this is the season that you're in and this is what you're in. This is the priority. Because like I said, there's stages. As you grow up, you first learn to crawl, then you learn to walk, and then you go to school. You get a high school diploma, you get a job. Some people do all this stuff in the reverse. And whatever you do is connected always to a responsibility. Mm-hmm. So if you just got out of your mama's house and you jumping straight into getting married and you don't even have a job to take care of that marriage, you are out of order. You making that a priority and to be responsible for something that you can't even take care of. So everything that we do in our life is going to be attached to being responsible. So when you don't put it in the divine order of when you're supposed to attain these things in your life, you will find yourself, not being happy. You will find yourself not wanting to be responsible because you fail to realize that once you put an act of responsibility in your life, that becomes the highest priority. When people choose, you get how much people, when women, take the idea, some women where when they're studying, they don't have relationships, or they put relationships in the back. Why? Because going to school is a responsibility. It requires a lot of attention, a lot of time. So that act of responsibility is dedicated right there. Now they may go out and have a good time here and there, but they don't put a man into that spot because that's the priority. That's the responsibility. And it's the same thing with men. It should be with men.
Prioritization takes place. That's exactly what you're saying. Prioritization takes place and there is no let off because you have to be all in. You have to be all in. Mm-hmm. And when you don't be all in, then something suffers. Something suffers.
Mm-hmm. It's just amazing how, and it's understanding. Sometimes we know that, if you were in the circumstances where you had to get away because of whatever responsibility you had, you felt your life was threatened or whatever, we get that. But for people who are just straight up, outright not being responsible when they could be responsible, or making excuses for not being responsible, and where other people are also helping you to be responsible, but yet you turn around and still not be responsible, you are actually taking advantage, when you have those who are there that are helping you. So let's go to the word help now. When that are helping you, you know what I'm saying, to maintain whatever, and you are disregarding that, you are actually disregarding the hand of God in your life, the blessing that God has given you. So basically what you say, I'm going to go back to that statement. You are trying to pimp God and pimp the person. You're taking the blessing that God has placed before you and given you to help you to manage and maintain. And you're turning around and not being responsible for the help that God has given you. Oh, that's why the word says that, your prayers won't be answered. That's what I was waiting to come to me. A man's prayers will not be answered if you are not being responsible. If you are not taking heed to what it is that God has blessed you with. So what if the relationship you got into fell apart and you got your Lord, still your children? Be responsible.
It's ironic how selfishness plays a role in a lot of men's decision and their lack of being responsible and being accountable for their actions. We live in a time, in a season right now where we hear, I gotta do me. I gotta do me. I gotta get me. Someone pays a cost when you just do you. And 99% of the time, it's your child. Because the order has been switched. You've placed yourself in front of your responsibility. You've pretty much told your responsibility, you've put your responsibility on pause. You've told your responsibility you're going to wait. You've told your responsibility, I'll get there when I get there. And I think selfishness plays an enormous role why a lot of men lack in their responsibility and they push their desires and their dreams ahead of them.
Doing me, as you said, that's a quote that people use. There's nothing wrong with doing me as long as you're taking care of your responsibility at the same time. I think of David, how even him knowing the prophecy that was placed on his life, he knew it. Okay. The prophet came in knowing that, he was going to be king, and I have to rephrase, I have to recheck it because I don't know if actually the prophet told him, but I know the prophet knew he was coming to anoint David to be king. But the bottom line is that he was responsible with his responsibilities throughout it all and not just chasing the dream.
That's right. He was. That's
every
right.
opportunity to obtain what the word was. And when I'm thinking about it, I'm going to search, but when I'm thinking, because even when we are words are spoken over us, or by a prophet or apostle, whatever, that word is spoken to you. So I'm gonna say too, just by normal everyday activities of what goes on, in ministry, I'm going to say until I search it that he, when the prophet came and anointed him, he had to say what his anointing was. So if he knew what his anointing was, he didn't just go leave his responsibilities of being a shepherd boy. He didn't leave even when he got into the kingdom of being the king's servant, playing the instrument. He didn't leave that responsibility even when there was things and positions God was positioning him in. Because the truth of the matter is, it was the people that put him into that position. And what all of what God has done, throughout that whole story. But he didn't leave his responsibilities as he was waiting for that prophecy to come, that prophecy to come forth in his life.
True.
Or that dream to come forth.
True.
You understand what I'm saying? Even when you think about Joseph, God gave him a dream. He didn't just go chasing that dream. As a matter of fact, that dream got him in trouble. That dream was delayed quite a bit because people sometimes are envy even of your dream.
That's right.
But he didn't go chasing it.
That's right.
He had responsibility. Whatever came upon him after that, after telling his dream, he was still responsible. To the point of where, he was ruler over everything that the king had given him. And saved his family. So he didn't go chasing after it. He remained responsible to his responsibilities. Everywhere in the Bible where you see a prophecy or a dream or a vision, people still are responsible to their everyday responsibilities until that comes to pass. They don't just drop their responsibility and chase after what it is that God has spoken over their life. And that's why there's such a mess in families and their relations, because people are so busy chasing after their dream. You know, it's even, you know, I know we got to wrap it up, but I'm going to leave on this story. It's even, how can I, ridiculous how even when you take in people and you helping them, they were responsible before you took them in to help them. And then when you help them, they no longer want to be responsible.
Amen. Amen.
No matter where you at in your life, you're still going to be responsible for you and whatever it is that you have to do.
Amen.
Sometimes people just want to, you know, and that's what I got this morning when the Spirit was hitting me hard. And I know we got to wrap up, but the Spirit gave me right now, we have to really pray and fast and be very conscious of responsibility and not taking other people responsibility of what they're supposed to do.
Amen. Amen.
This is why the world is the way it is. We do so much for other people where they should be doing it. There's a time to help, and there's a time to let people take on their own responsibility.
Amen.
Because when you don't do it and you keep doing it, you will eventually have a monster on your hand.
Amen.
You will have a situation in your head, because when the moment you stop doing it, you're going to have hell that you're going to go through.